So the local government is the final layer of federalism in this country. Local governments and local communities are the backbone of the nation, and they've existed even before many of the states did, especially in the eastern part of the country. And therefore, they are rich in history and tradition. And local governments are really where citizenship first began. Most people simply set out to change their community first through volunteerism, election boards, park committees, etc. And federalism also plays out between the local government and the states, just like it does between the states and the federal government. The first thing to note is that although many towns or areas have existed before the state has, the local government itself is established by the state in which it resides. For example, you may live in a place with many different addresses, but there's only one township government. For example, where I'm from, there's a place called Thornbury Township, but in that exists different postal addresses. They might include Thornton, Glen Mills, Cheney, Chester Heights, or even Westchester, but they all fall under Thornbury Township as the government, and that comes from the state. Each of these areas are not governed by themselves because the state has not allowed a local government in these areas, mostly due to population size. So there's no Thornton municipality or Glen Mills in that area. It's all grouped into one township, and that local township is the governing authority. The local government does numerous things for the state as a whole, though. One big role of the local government is to create zones through the action of zoning, and we talked about this a little bit under federalism already. But the zoning board, which is made up of a portion of the township board typically, decides what can happen in the township and where. For example, it may decide where a factory can be placed or where it cannot be placed. It normally divides the county and the township into industrial sections and residential sections. So why is this important? Well, imagine you're a homeowner living next to a beautiful field that provides a beautiful view. If the township did not distinguish between residential and commercial zones, there's nothing from stopping a big manufacturing corporation from putting a huge factory in that field. Suddenly, your house with a view now looks at the ugliness of industrialization. That could significantly lower the value of your home, and essentially, when the factory would go on that field, they would steal money from the asset of the home. How many homeowners do you know that would be completely happy about losing value in their home? Not many. So by creating zoning boards, the local government makes sure that land is used responsibly and individuals are protected. The local government also supervises the Public Works Department. The Public Works Department is extremely important for us. One thing they take care of, for example, is trash removal. And you might want to seriously consider what would happen if trash was not removed. If you had a hard time envisioning that, let me help you. Before recently, really, there was no trash removal in all of history. So first off, your community would really stink. People have pets. Those pets leave waste along with their homeowners. The smell would decrease the air quality in your community. Diseases caused by bacteria, such as cholera, would be prevalent. Trash would also eventually make its way into your water supply, making it unsafe to drink. So this is just one overlooked but very critical aspect of a local government. The Public Works Department also maintains parks, and they're responsible for clearing off roads when there is a flood or a blizzard. More or less, they make it possible for life to actually happen within the township or municipality. The local government is also responsible for making sure its citizens have utilities. Utilities are basic services that most people have. They include things like running water, gas, for heating, electric. There are numerous times when these utilities are administered by a private company. However, the local government plays a role in making sure that these utilities reach the houses by providing the infrastructure. So it might mean the pipes underneath the house, the preservation of gas lines, or the maintenance of a reservoir. The last thing that's a part of a local government is the school board. Although the state is responsible for determining what students learn and for creating programs that develop qualified teachers, it's the local government that is actually responsible for teaching the students. The state usually gives this responsibility to school districts that may encompass numerous townships. And so the school district is governed by the school board. It's while it is a part of our local government, it's different than the township or municipality or borough government. And that's a key distinction. They have more authority over um, the schools. Typically, school boards are made up of members of the community that actually run for election, and they determine the budget for the school district, and they have the power to raise taxes on the community it serves to pay for its services. And as we learn, taxing and spending is not actually a cut and dry thing, and the school board will spend taxpayer money in the ways that they see fit, and sometimes this creates confusion or controversy in the community. For example, school may want a new building or a new athletic field, but doesn't mean that the local community is going to want to pay for it. But this is an evident principle of democracy at work. But more importantly, the local government is always uniquely positioned to solve problems differently than the federal government or even the state government. Because the local government has very defined problems and in many ways very defined solutions. For example, let's say a snow needs to be cleared from the road and the public work department goes out and does its job. No one needs to wait and see the local committee team is going to vote on whether something needs to happen or not. So in many ways, the local government is the antithesis of the federal government. You can sometimes think of the federal government as nothing but an example of the negative side of bureaucracy. How local government shows that it knows how to get things done and is typically much better at solving problems. If problems do arise, they can resort to town halls. At a town hall, the community can gather together and voice their concerns or support for a certain policy directly to the decision makers that were voted into office. Constituents don't have to go through an aide or write a letter to their representative to possibly have their voice considered. They can talk directly to the decision makers at town halls. And that's why town halls are a bedrock of the political process in this country. It also means that if someone makes a wrong decision, they're going to hear about it more at a town hall than maybe your far off governor will. Local townships and local governments also usually run a balanced budget. They have to. Although sometimes they do run into the issue of not having enough money. And one way they can raise money is through the active permits. They might charge a fee to host an event at a local park, but they also will charge a fee to make changes to your house. This is done for a number of reasons. One is to raise revenue. Two, to make sure your house is assessed for taxes in the same way, again to raise revenue. But third is also to make sure that your house is safe. One thing local governments do through permits is to make sure that fire codes, for example, are in place when you install some new electrical outlet. We don't want to see any house burn up because that creates a threat to yourself and your neighbors as well, and puts township fire departments at risk. So permits are usually there to make sure that work is being done effectively and safely. But lastly, township officials live where they work. This is probably the biggest reason that local governments are often the most responsive to their citizens. The people running the government have a shared interest in making sure that where they live is the best place that they can live at the time.